Sound good?
Okay,
So
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, 12 people are waiting,
Okay.
joining in. I wanted them to see you before I did that.
I'm glad you did. I'm going to keep typing notes.
Okay.
Felicia's calling me.
Okay. You want to, people are on now, so if you want, you can mute your line. She knew I was about to put you on. That's funny. Hi, y'all. We'll be starting in a few minutes.
Am I muted or not?
Yeah. You're not muted, Julia. I think we'll wait for just a couple minutes after 10. Some folks are still signing on and I'm admitting them from their waiting room.
This is nice. I can see my big screen with my notes.
Good. About 30 folks on the call so far.
No pressure.
All right, we'll just wait another minute as I let folks in, and then Julia will begin. Okay, welcome everyone. Some folks are still joining on, but since it's 10:01, I think we can begin. You all joined in mute mode. Please stay in mute as we can hear paper moving and it picks up a lot of sound. So just keep your microphone muted. After Julia gives her report, we are going to be open for questions. So this will be nice to have the interactive Ask Julia session again. So when we get to that point, I'll just switch to my mode so I can see you all, and you can just raise your hand and we can call on you. If you have questions, you can also put them in the chat as well, but we will be calling on folks at the end. So again, some folks are still joining on, but I'll keep letting them in, and I'll let Julia begin. This session is being recorded.
Good morning to everyone. It is exciting to be back and have a little more interaction. So thank you, Jessica, for getting that set up. I thought I'd start today talking about the main facility side and where the schedule stands and some things that have actually taken place and are scheduled to take place in the next couple of weeks. On the Borden skilled nursing side, work has begun in the activities area and the rooms on the right-hand side of the entrance hallway. They've been working on the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing in that area and have started some framing. So we were excited to see that area actually get started. They constructed a partial wall, and it parallels the long part of the hallway, and to keep some separation between the workers and the staff and residents in Borden. The workers are required, if they are in that area, to wear masks and to give notice that they're going in, and we're trying to, working with them to do anything we can to abide with any safety protocols. Also in the Borden area, in the old PT entrance where the ramp was, the ramp has generally been demolished. We ran into a little issue with an unexpected footer in the way, but the structural engineer has come out. She's taken a look at it. She's given Nielsen some guidance on that. The work should begin in that area again, if not this week or early next week. They just got the response this morning, so I'm sure they'll have to gear up a little bit. And you know, with something like that, when you see where work, maybe there's been a lot of activity and then all of a sudden there isn't activity, a couple things may have happened. In several cases, something has, we tore down a wall and we found an unexpected water line or sanitary sewer line, or in this case, there was a footing that extended into the ramp that, you know, until you removed the 6-8 inches of concrete and took out all the gravel, there was no way of knowing it was there. It wasn't showing up on the previous as-built drawings. So sometimes you'll see activity start and then it all of a sudden, it seems like it stops, but behind the scenes, there's many times there's work that's being done between the contractor, Kendall, and the architectural and engineering team. And, you know, when we get to Webster, I'll talk about that also. Again, just an example of where something unexpected caused a delay in the work. But there is a temporary, there is a new ramp that is in, and it's mainly complete, but there's a small portion that's temporary to allow access for staff if they need to in the event of really bad weather, which potentially we could have some rain over the weekend, so they may need to be using that. But on the good news side, the PT equipment, 4 pieces of new physical therapy equipment is being delivered today. It's going to go into the new physical therapy addition. We are scheduled to do a substantial completion of that area in the next week or so. And once we do that, there's several steps that need to take place, but we'll do the substantial completion inspection that will include the architects, the mechanical engineer, the electrical engineer, me, Herbie, you know, anyone else that needs to really take a look at that area, make sure everything is substantially complete. The next step would be to obtain the certificate of occupancy from the county inspector. Then we will contact the state health department, who triggers the fire marshal's inspection. And once all of that takes place, then we can talk about occupancy. But we're definitely moving forward with those steps, and it's getting much closer. It's all going to depend on the state and the fire inspector to come out and say everything is good. Once that happens, we'll be moving PT out of the sunroom, and the remaining areas that still need to be done, the hallways at the entrance, there's a couple offices in the entrance area, the conference room area, all of that can be finished up in boarding. On Webster, we are working again to get a substantial inspection on the addition in the next week or so. And we, that area has been looking really good. There's still some work that needs to tie the addition into the existing hallway that will keep us from actually occupying that in the next couple weeks. But once that work gets completed, the Webster residents will have access to a very nice addition and sunroom and country kitchen, and it's progressing fairly well. I think you have seen the exterior work that's being done. The covered walkways going up, the sidewalks are going in. Obviously, there's still more work to do on that, but there's been some really good steady progress on that area. If you haven't been in that area in a while, you might just drive by or take a safe walk by and see. They have a couple bioretention ponds that are going to be in the parking lot. And they have started work on one of those, and then they should start work on the other one either today, tomorrow, or early next week. And you'll start to see that area get cleaned up a little bit. We have also, while all that's going on, there is additional renovation of rooms in Webster. 3 rooms have begun cosmetic type renovations, and those are expected to be turned back to Kendall late next week. There'll be a transition time where Kendall will go in and need to clean and move furniture and that type of thing. And then some residents in Webster will move into the new rooms, and Nielsen will be delivered another set of 3 or 4 rooms to renovate. I'm cheating and looking at my notes here. On the Anderson side, and I'm not sure if Diane's on, but I know quite a few people have been excited to see the work that is done on the Anderson patio and the patio and porch from the library. We anticipate being able to open that area mid to late next week. There's still a few items that needs to be completed. We did a substantial inspection, I think it was last week or the week before. There were some items identified. Nielsen has been working on those. Even after it's open, there may be a half day or a day where it'll have to be shut back down to finalize some things, but I know everyone's anxious to get out there and utilize that space. So that should happen mid to late next week. You'll start seeing some furniture moved around, and I'm sure there'll be notices sent out on how to occupy or when you can. So now we'll move on to the independent living. There's been quite a bit of work going on in the pond conversions. So what that means is there are multiple sediment basins. We've been calling them Pond 1, Pond 2, but the sediment basins, and those are being converted to detention ponds. Pond 2 down on the far northeast side of the property, the conversion is mostly complete, not 100%, but the majority of the work had been done. They are sodding that area. They have installed a bioretention pond upstream of that. And what is happening is the water, the surface water from the cottages up on the ridge on the eastern half are being collected, and they drain in the grass swale. They go into the storm drain system. The storm drain system is connected to the bioretention pond. That filters the water. It leaves the bioretention pond. It goes into the detention pond. It's a controlled release during a rain event. And these are not ponds in the sense that they're going to hold water. They will temporarily hold water during a rain event, several hours afterwards, and then the water will be released It's very similar, the detention ponds are very similar to the pond or grass area down near physical therapy that you already have on campus. One thing that is going to happen, for those who use the stairs from the Sunrise Ridge down to the Webster parking lot, or ultimately into Anderson or Webster, those stairs need to be replaced. We've identified some problems with them. We've talked to the contractor. We had hoped this work was going to be done this week, early next week, but one of the workers had to leave for a family emergency, and he is really the main person that's working with that. So we're waiting to hear a new date on that. We hope that the work will only be a couple days, where they need to demolish, rebuild, get the handrails back up. I don't have an exact time frame, but we have expressed to Nielsen to please don't demo on a Friday and then we wait another week and start back up on the work to try and plan it that it can all be done in a very sequential time. I didn't mention when I talked about Webster the staff parking and the parking area down by Webster. And that was another area where work had started and then it seemed like nothing happened. Well, what happened was there was a water line that was too shallow, and a request for information from the contractor went to Spectrum, the architectural engineering firm. They proposed a solution. The solution would have been fairly expensive to implement. So we stepped back, we looked at some alternatives. We've made some decisions, and I think you saw this week they started back working on the parking lot, and hopefully that'll be turned over in the next couple of days. Another area that I've seen quite a few questions, or people have some questions on, is the piles of topsoil and bioretention filter mix that's across on Sunrise Ridge, across from, in the 320, 324 range of properties. And as the pond conversions get completed, those piles should start to come down. They still need to finish the work that they're doing on the pond that you see off of Kendall Drive, and also that staging area where they have all their material. But we expect the majority, if not all of the area and the piles to be removed by late September. Again, with this kind of work, it's always dependent on the weather. If we get a week of rain and then it needs to dry out for 3 or 4 days, that's gonna delay. But they're systematically have been working on reducing those. There's still a little bit of sidewalk and gutter repair that needs to be done up on Sunrise Ridge. I think anybody that's been up there has seen, there'll be a couple days where they're removing some gutter, removing some sidewalk. Expect to see that for the next couple of weeks. Once that's all completed, once the pond conversions are done and the majority of the topsoil pile and biofilter piles are completed, then we actually are looking to put the final surface asphalt coat on that portion of Sunrise Ridge mid to late September. So I think that's exciting for the people that are living up there. I know quite a few of you have lived with this for many, many months, but I see that all coming together towards the end of September. Of course, we'll give you plenty of notice on that. I did send out an email to the Sunrise Ridge residents this morning about the new date for, they have some work to do on that grass channel. I realized after I sent it, so if anybody read it and said, what is she talking about seeding? They are still going to sod that area, not seed the grass channel. And then we're working with Nielsen to get a firm date on the remainder of the inner circle workings. They have contracted with True Green to come in, and I believe there's 2 more applications of weed control that's going to be in place. They are going to aerate the area. They are going to reseed the area. We met with the architectural or the civil engineer and the contractor on Tuesday. We walked portions of that area, identified some areas where there's been ponding water between the properties, and there's a plan in place to remove that. And I know for some of the people up on the ridge that have been living with this, I've said that before. I do think now it's a better plan that the civil engineer has been more engaged in part of the solution, and we're really looking forward to having that eroded areas corrected, topsoil put in place, the seed get down, and the get some good vegetation established before the winter. One last item, and then I'll turn it over for questions. We will at some point need to start the work on the intersection at Enfield Drive and Kendall Drive. This is another area where we've had extensive conversations with Nielsen to talk about starting that work and completing that work. They have the VDOT permit. They don't want to start that work when we still have heavy equipment in the area. But then on the other hand, the asphalt plants tend to close down. It depends on, it's very weather dependent, but sometime early, mid, late, sometime in December typically. As the weather gets colder, the asphalt plants cannot function, so they'll close down. So we're kind of looking at that schedule, looking at when they can get in and get the work done. But just a little bit of notice on that there will be some disruption. There'll be some single lane days. There will be all kinds of, there'll be safety measures in place, but and we'll give you plenty of notice on this. I just want to kind of bring that one up. The swap property will be, as I've been saying all along, is going to be like one of the very final last things that get done. So I'm sure we'll have a couple more Ask Julia's before I can definitively say this is when that work's going to be done. But I would expect, October, November, they'll start working their way out of there. One item, I saw Ted's question and about the pergola coverings, and the date we were given now is shipping in mid-September. So it will be later September before they can get installation set up for those. Again, we're subject to the supplier. They had told us a much earlier date until the day it was supposed to ship, and then we were told it wasn't going to ship. I think with that, Jessica, I'm ready to take questions.
Okay, I'm gonna, the first question hand I see up is Bruce Summers. And so just when I call on you, unmute and ask your question.
Thank you. Julia, is the work that you just described about the interior for Sunrise Ridge Circle, that's NBI and the architect working together on grading and the channel and that kind of thing, is that inclusive of the landscaping, or is the final landscaping kind of a distinct and separate component of the overall project, something that would maybe come later? If my question is clear.
Yes, it is very clear. So the landscaping, the trees that have been put in place now, the quantity complies with the contract, and that is under Nielsen's purview. The size of the trees, I think we mentioned this before, do not comply with the contract. And we are working with Nielsen to get a credit for the difference between the size they should have put in and the size that was actually put in. We talked about that again at our progress meeting on Tuesday. I've received some additional information yesterday, and we're working with Nielsen to make sure that that credit is appropriate. and that, you know, Kendall gets back what they should get back. Separate from that, and I don't want to speak for Herbie, but separate from that, I believe Kendall is working to with a landscaper, the gentleman that did the work out in the Anderson courtyard or garden, to come up with a plan that will be presented to the horticulture committee and to the residents to provide additional landscaping in that area. It's somewhat the final version for what Nielsen's contractual obligation is, but not necessarily what the final version of what that area will look like.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. I have a question here from Ted. Can you explain more about the pergola coverings, their color, what they are going to look like?
I believe the color was a tan color. It's been a couple weeks now. I know that they're going to be able to be raised and lowered. It's more of a fabric material, but I haven't actually seen that myself. So I might have to get back to you with some additional information on that.
Okay. Are there any other hands up? Let me see. If some of you do not have your video on, so you can unmute or type in chat. Kay Quirk has a question.
When they seeded the area in the courtyard, the first thing they did was put down some nice sod, and that has done very well. But in the middle, they used some kind of cloth or something, and that was supposed to seed it. But it seems as though most of it is weeds, and it looks terrible. So what is the plan for remedying that situation?
They will need to come in and reseed, treat the weeds, reseed, and until that area is a satisfactory grass, just similar to the backyards up on Sunrise Ridge, until Kendall is satisfied and it meets the contractual specifications, that's not going to be accepted by Kendall, and it'll still be under the purview of Nielsen to take care of. Having said that, they have on the Borden, Anderson, Webster side of the project, they have contracted with a new subcontractor to maintain, like cut the grass and take care of the weeds. And I agree with you, Kay, it did not look good at all. We've talked to them about, you know, that area not so much, but the Hall Road still has rocks in it. There's some uneven surfaces. That they'll need to continue to work on that area through the fall. The reason a portion of it was sodded, there was some back and forth on where sod was going to be placed, and there was about 1,000 square feet of sod that I don't want to say we needed a place for, but basically Kendall had purchased it and we wanted to not just let it go. So they put it, they started with the sod, which I agree looks much better, and then the remainder was seed, but the contract actually just called for them to seed that area, and they need to do some work in it.
Thank you.
Bruce?
I'm off mute. This is a further question on sod, prompted by Kay's question. And we've seen recently some big loads, flatbeds of sod coming in on the ridge, and raised expectations, but that sod was laid down in the bottom of, I may not get the technical name right, the retention ponds. For a while, they looked like grass tennis courts down there. So just help us understand what's going on in terms of the kind of the design of the retention ponds. Why do they need all that sod? What's the kind of the decision tree?
Sure. The decision is pretty much up to Nielsen. They have the discretion to use sod or to seed. And I agree with you. I said to them, when I found out that they were actually sodding the ponds as opposed to putting sod in the backyards, I questioned that myself. unfortunately, contractually, there isn't much we can do about it. They have the option of sodding or seeding, and they have chosen on the ponds to sod. Part of that is because although it takes a lot of water to begin with, it's not, and once it's established, there's not an extended period of maintenance involved. And with it being remote, they chose sod over seed, with the expectation that the sod would take, that the area would be established quicker, and it would not need to have hoses across the road and down the bank to try and get grass established, beyond November.
Thank you.
Julia, a question, dog park. When will the dog park be accessible?
Thank you.
That's a good question. We're trying to get, we did the substantial on the workout side, excluding some of the utilities. And what Nielsen is trying to do is get that area completely, the grass established in that area, especially the bank. And I know that's not exactly the dog part, but it's all tied in with that work. That bioretention pond is in, but the area around it has not been completed. There's still going to be some grading that needs to be done. There's eroded areas that need to be filled in. They plan on working on that in September. I didn't ask them specifically about the dog park, but I'll make a note to follow up on that one and see if we can get that area in particular maybe opened up sooner.
Ted Burrows.
I thought I could use my space bar. Two related questions. What is the schedule and plan for the landscaping outside the ring road, particularly down towards the bigger detention ponds? And as you come into the campus, you come to the four-way stop. If you go straight ahead on Kendall Drive, there still is a mound on the left that I don't remember being there before the whole construction started. It just looks out of place. Is there any plan to grade that down any?
And to make sure you're talking about where the trailer is between Kendall Drive
But
and
right next to Kendall Drive.
Okay. That's, but on the corner where the trailer is that where we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's going to be one of the final areas that gets cleaned up. They're, once they're close to being finished, they will come back in, and that entire area will have to be cleaned up, grass established that hasn't been. And I know along Kendall Drive, as you continue between, I think, the area you're talking about and to the Borden entrance, there is, the grading has not been done properly. So there's some work that they need to do in there. That's all tied to the bank, the dog park, that area, that we should expect to see work in the next month to 6 weeks in that area.
And the outside the rim on the ridge?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, on that one also, again, True Green is has been contracted to work on the weeds and reseed and remove rocks. They from what I was told on Friday or Monday, they were removing some of the rocks. What I saw was there's a lot of work that still needs to be done on removing rocks. So that needs to be done. There's holes that need to be filled in. There's eroded areas. There's weird things on the screen. There are eroded areas, and it's all part of the maintenance program that they have contracted with True Green to do.
But there was a landscape plan that had trees and shrubs and attractive things for like the Confederate Cove people to be able to look out at, and is that, next spring or?
Confederate Cove work is continuing as we speak. They have 2
Ouch.
swales that need to be established along that property line, and that's the work. That's part of the work that we're seeing them do now. They did some bush hogging. They are putting in a pipe that is an outfall pipe from the I'll say ponds. They are will continue with that. And I don't remember exactly what the landscaping was along there, but on the areas along Pond 2, the trees have been in place for quite a while. The Rebel Ridge trees are in place, and we would expect that the Confederate Cove trees would be in place in the fall. I really don't remember exactly what the grading or what the landscape plan says for that area, but they should be in this fall if there are additional trees there.
Okay. Any other questions for folks that I don't see your video? I see Anita James.
Jessica, can you hear me?
I called. Okay, I can hear you.
My question, Julia, was when you're talking about sodding in the back area, are we talking about actual rows of sod like we had in the front, with all of the gaps where people can break an ankle? Or are we talking about those mats with straw between the netting that seem, as somebody else pointed out, to be mostly weeds rather than grass?
They will be sodding. It will not be the netting, the mesh with the seed. And it will not be the entire backyards. It'll be a 8 to 10 foot swath in the grass channel.
And so those areas between houses that now are mostly weeds will remain mostly weeds with that mesh that traps your feet?
No, Anita, it will not. That's what I said. They're coming back in mid, I don't have an exact schedule, but between September and October, they were going to fill in the areas where there are eroded areas. They will fill in the, remove the rocks, fill in the eroded areas, put down topsoil, reseed. That area will be reseeded. It's going to be treated by True Green for weeds. They've done 2 applications. I believe there's another one in the next couple weeks. They only schedule it a week out, so I cannot tell you an exact date. As of Tuesday, they did not have an exact date. And then they'll work to establish grass in between the cottages and everywhere else except that grass channel.
To the surface. That
Excuse
mesh
me?
comes up. Dirt gets put on it, but that mesh comes up to the surface and is really dangerous.
I agree. I have told them that many, many, many times.
I think Bruce had another question.
Julia, you referred to a landscape plan. So evidently there's something documented and written. Can that plan be shared with interested residents? I think it came up in the connection of what's going to happen on Sunrise Ridge Circle, in the Confederate Cove area, so people can kind of see and understand what the landscaping will ultimately look like?
I think that's a better question for Jan than for me.
Well, could you ask Jan that question on behalf of
Absolutely.
interested residents?
Sure.
Thank you.
And let us know.
Let us know,
Absolutely.
yes or no?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Don't see
I'm going to
any.
try again, Jessica.
Okay,
It's Joe Scavera.
hi, Joe.
Hi, we don't have a picture, but you don't need a picture of me. My question for Julia is, what's the plan for filling in that trench below the Hall Road and below the courtyard? They've started work on it and then they quit.
The trench below the Hall Road, we're talking Anderson,
Yes,
and we're talking the Hall Road.
right. Down below the whole road, alongside of it is a trench that runs along the sidewalk. They started to fill it back in and haul the old bales of hay and so forth, and then they quit.
I don't know the answer to that, but I'll get you an answer.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Linda, are you putting your hand up or no? Okay. All right, I think we're done here. This will be put on the YouTube channel that's connected on Katie Webb. And for those of you who know folks who don't have Zoom or internet, Becky will be showing this tomorrow afternoon. All right, thank you all. Thank you, Julia.
Bye.
Bye.